Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about two new to me mysteries. One is a Christian mystery and one is a secular mystery. I'm going to tell you my thoughts about both if you want to stay tuned. So hello everyone and welcome to Book Talks with Miss Thomas. I'm Miss Thomas. If you're new here and you like hearing about books, all kinds of books, then please subscribe. And if you are returning, welcome back. Thanks so much for coming. Today I want to talk about two, I want to say very different mysteries, but they're really not that different. I used to think Christian stuff was kind of maybe boring before I was saved. And now I see that it's not boring or naive or even fluffy. I read a book by Colleen Coble, Beneath Copper Falls, and I really enjoyed it. In fact, I liked it better than Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough, which is a really hot book right now. I waited at the library, gosh, I don't even know. I think there were over 50 holds. So I waited a long time for this book and I was really eager and really excited to get it. And isn't that the worst when you're really excited for a book and then you finally get it and you're super disappointed? I think I would have been better off if I weren't looking forward to it, because I have to tell you, this one really disappointed me. It's called Insomnia, and guess what? It's about insomnia. I mean, it's like 300 pages about a woman who can't fall asleep. I just couldn't get into it, but I will tell you about it. I finished it. If it were by another author, I might have DNF'd it, but you know, I read Sarah Pinborough's Behind Her Eyes, and even though that's not a Philippians 4 book at all, I thought it was a real page turner. It kept me on the edge of my seat. I was just guessing throughout the book and shocked by the ending. So I hung in there to the end of this one, and it really wasn't all that surprising. I guess I didn't figure out the end of the book right away, but I'd say 2/3 into the book I had it resolved and I was correct. Not that I'm all that, I just didn't think this book was especially I don't know, all that surprising. But anyway, I will tell you about it. The story Insomnia. Of course, now my neighbor picks a time to get some kind of heavy, loud tool in his yard because that's what he does. But anyway, Insomnia is the story of a woman. She's this really successful, high-powered attorney, and she cannot fall asleep because she's about to turn 40. And she has this tragic memory from her early childhood where when her mother turned 40, something horrible happened and social services intervened and she and her sister end up in foster care. So she really believes that her mother went crazy on her 40th birthday, and because she's headed for her 40th birthday, she can't sleep and she thinks she's starting to lose her mind. And throughout the book, you get to see, a really nice close glimpse of her marriage, of her children, of her sister. Her sister shows up out of nowhere. I think her sister lived in Spain or something. Her name is Phoebe. And she shows up and she wants this main character to make peace with the mother because the mother's in a mental institution. She's in a heavily sedated state. And then I guess she ended up banging her head against a mirror, and so she was hospitalized. And so Phoebe comes to tell the main character, I don't even remember the main character's name because I was just not all that into this book. Emma. So the main character's name is Emma, and her sister Phoebe wants her to reunite with her mother. She wants her to make peace with her mother because her mother is in the hospital, and she has been in a mental institution. She was hospitalized for banging her head against a glass mirror, and so she suffered some pretty heavy injuries. So Phoebe goes to see her mother in the hospital, and I'm sorry, not Phoebe. Emma goes to see her mother in the hospital, and she has these arguments with her sister Phoebe, and you're not really sure as you're reading it, is her relationship with Phoebe a really hateful relationship, or is it just your typical sister relationship? You know how sisters can. So there's that. And then there's the thing about the husband. You don't quite trust the husband. He's a stay-at-home dad, and she's this overworked, high-powered attorney. And the kids, the son, she has this son who has all of these, almost like, I think, was it night terrors? He was doodling in a book, and he draws these disturbing things. He starts coloring disturbing images, and so the husband thinks that Emma is harming their son. And then there's this really bratty teenage daughter named Chloe, and that was one of the biggest problems I had, was I just didn't like any of the characters. You think like, oh, poor Emma, you want her to be able to take care of her children, and you feel bad for her, and you want her to get some sleep, and you want to believe she's not crazy. But then as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, well, she's obviously a crap mother. I mean, I'm sorry. But I know she works really hard, and the husband's supposed to be the stay-at-home dad, but I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years, and my husband was still involved. He still took us to family dinners every week. You know, even though he worked long hours, he was very involved in our lives. And so you just get the sense that this is a pretty dysfunctional family, and so it was hard for me to really empathize or sympathize with the characters in the book. So Insomnia, if you yourself are having trouble falling asleep, this one might be a good one. I don't know, other people really liked it. It could be me. So I don't recommend Insomnia, but other people thought it was really great. I did finish it. The ending was a little bit twisty, I guess. So there you have it. Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough. I wish I could tell you more, but I didn't really get it. Now, one book that I really did like, and that one is a Christian mystery, and that one is Beneath Cooper Falls, or Copper Falls. I think it was Beneath Copper Falls, and it was very good. And I'll put it right here, Beneath Copper Falls. And I hope it's Copper, not Cooper. That was an audiobook, let me just tell you. So because it was an audiobook, I want to comment on that as well, because it was, I think that's helpful. When you're hearing an audiobook, it's important. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she said, yeah, an audio can really ruin the story or make it good. And I thought the reader who read this book did a good job. I was very interested in the book, but I also think that when it's an audiobook, I have a harder time following the story because I'm driving, for one thing, so I'm not focused and on the book. I'm focused on the road, but also I just I don't know, I can't really like visualize it because I'm looking at the road, and sometimes I like to take a post-it note and jot down notes when I'm reading, and I couldn't do that, so I probably missed some of it. But let me tell you about Beneath Copper Falls, and that was the story of Dana, and it begins with Dana. She has this memory of a scar on her face, but we don't find out until much later in the book how she got the scar on her face. And she makes meatloaf for her boyfriend, and he's her fiance, and he flies into a rage and shoves her head into the sink because he doesn't like meatloaf, and she didn't know that, and that makes him angry. So at first I was a little leery because I thought, okay, it's a pretty violent description of a man plunging a woman's head into a sink of soapy water, and that disturbed me a little bit. So I don't know that it'll make it to the Philippians 4 list, but I enjoyed it. And the story follows Dana leaves her boyfriend, her fiance, and she's on the run from him, and she goes to live with her brother in her hometown. So she leaves the state, lives with her brother in her hometown. The brother's name is Chris. And Chris travels a lot, and Dana is gonna stay with him because he's not gonna be around a lot anyway. And she has some friends, you know, from her hometown, childhood friends, and so it's kind of cozy. And then there's this nice man that she ends up falling in love with. He teaches her self-defense, and he has been horribly hurt by another woman because his face was burned in a tragedy, and she dumped him. They were engaged and she dumped him. And so he's very reluctant to trust Dana or to trust any other women or to trust his heart again with anyone else. So there was a little bit about that. And then there was this what was he? The Groom Reaper. So there was this character, the Groom Reaper, who murders women the night before their wedding day. So he gets engaged to women, he has them fall in love with him, and then he murders them the night before their wedding day. And there's a character who names him the Groom Reaper and starts researching him. She's just like an amateur sleuth, and she starts researching this Groom Reaper. She calls him that. And you get a little bit of description about what's going on in the Groom Reaper's mind, what's going on in his life and his relationships with his fiancées. And of course, he turns out to be a serial killer. And will he go after Dana, or is he Dana's ex-boyfriend that she's on the run from? Can this new love that's teaching her self-defense keep her safe? Will they trust each other enough to form a relationship? There's a lot in the book that was very enjoyable. Whether you're a Christian or not, I thought that was a really good book. It was, exciting. It kept me guessing. And I was actually just as surprised by the ending there as I was by the Pinborough book, maybe more so. I had figured out the ending of the Colleen Coble book, I guess about the same time I figured this one out. Like about 2/3 into the book, I had figured it out. So it was surprising, but not like a jaw-dropping ending. You kind of saw it coming, or at least I did. And I will say, with regard to the Colleen, what is her name? Colleen Coble, I think. I will say, with regard to the spiritual content of that book, it was very good. I thought, as far as Christian books go, that one had really excellent spiritual content. There were a few passages in there that I thought, it blessed my heart. So there was one particular passage where Dana is wondering when to speak up and when not to speak up, because she's a 911 operator. She receives 911 calls, and she often wants to pray with the people on the other end of the line, but she has been corrected for that in an old job where she no longer works, and because of that, she's reluctant to pray with people that call 911 in her new job. And turns out her boss is a Christian, and so that's a personal battle that she struggles with. Should she pray or not pray with people? And I liked that because, it was different. It was the people in her old job didn't like it, but the people in this job may have been more receptive had she just had that open conversation with them. And I appreciated that about the book. And there was just a lot in there about faith and faith content. And also, at the end of the book, the author herself gets on there and she talks about the character who was disfigured in the fire and about the importance of looking at people for who they are and not for their physical appearance. So that was also something of value in the book that I admired. So those are my reviews, my thoughts on two somewhat different, but in my opinion, very similar mysteries. And, I would encourage you to check them both out. Okay, I wouldn't encourage you to check this one out. I didn't care for it. And I'm sorry. If you loved it, then you loved it. A lot of people did, but I didn't. The other one I did really like though. So those are my thoughts, and I hope you're out there and you're reading and you're enjoying lots of great books. And if no one has told you, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are created by the creator of the universe, and he loves you, and you are just so very important, and you matter. And thank you for listening. Your listening matters to me. Bye for now.